Hi, I'm Sunny, and this is going to be Pluto in the 11th house or Pluto in Aquarius. So, if you guys have this placement, talk about isolation, extreme isolation when it comes to things, or maybe not all the time. It does feel like it kind of ebbs and flows, but I don't think I mentioned this on the previous one. When it comes to Pluto and Saturn, is that it's very likely that you would be in extreme bouts of isolation um, in both placements, but this one in particular is more when it comes to your community and social groups. So maybe you feel extremely isolated, but maybe not for all your life. Maybe it's like certain years or certain months, maybe even weeks, but it feels more so to months and years rather than a few days and weeks, for example. So if you have this, you would likely feel like you're extremely isolated from the world because you can't fit in, for example, or you feel like you're too different and people around you don't share the same ideals or maybe the same hobbies and visions of what you feel like your life should go, well, like in terms of direction. So you learn that you slowly start pushing away people in an Aquarian way, where you kind of just outgrow them and feel like you can't relate to them. So you go find your own little niche or make your own little niche. But during this transaction, during this trajectory, sorry, you might realize that these periods of time where you're in isolation are going to be a little bit more longer than you'd like to, because you have this, it starts to play, the psychological part starts to eat at you pretty deeply, and you don't know how to get out of it. It's like you made the problem. It's not that you made the problem, but you took action, necessary action that was needed, but you don't know how to get out of it. I think in terms of like, you create your own obstacle internally, and as it's co-ruled by Uranus and Saturn, when it comes to the Aquarius home, the Aquarius 11th house, you would likely take a long time to even consider these options of isolation or moving yourself in different, like if you already feel that it's Saturn and Uranus do that, sorry, where it prolongs something when it doesn't need to be prolonged. Pluto might do that to an extreme, or Pluto with a combination of Uranus can make the sudden changes drastic and unforeseen, and you just kind of roll with the punches. It's a lot of chaos energy. So imagine two planets full of chaos. One is trying to break free from Saturnian energy, and one is trying to control. So one is like, it's interesting the way it plays. Doesn't play quite the same as Taurus and Scorpio in its opposition, but it plays where it's like, I want to be free, I don't want to have control, and the other one's like, I want to have control, I want to be in power. So you're kind of like dancing with control, no control, control, no control. So when you do have again, this is only some periods in time where you might not have experiences too much with human contact, or you might have isolation because maybe you're working online or doing things that separate you from your community or your niche. When you do decide to have those opportunities come back into your life with socialization, there you go, where you meet people and you guys, advocate for things that you both believe in and the lifestyles and things like that, it starts to become very transformational, because it can be very drastic ways of thought that you can kind of maybe, I think that you might not always notice these changes mentally, where you might have thought one way and then suddenly you kind of switch to the opposite way, and then you go back to your community and they're like, we don't think like this, like what's going on? So they might kind of not impose their authority, but you feel that weight on you. It feels like they're slowly kind of pushing you out, and because you've kind of been pushed around a lot, maybe from your groups that you felt safe in, but you no longer feel safe, and you start to feel like there's abandonment, resentment, anger. It's just kind of boiling inside. And so maybe you go to the extreme and you end up joining a CULT, or you're invested in such matters, right? This is also some Sagittarius cool that not placements, but some Sagittarius themes that could kind of coincide with this. But you get the idea of, you might start being interested that maybe not purposely, but these groups might be more accepting of the revolutionary ideas that you have to bring to the table, for example. Or you have very drastic, it can be a little too much structure maybe that you want to implement on people when they clearly do not want to be structured lives, right? They don't want to have that in their lives, and you just want to impose that on people. It's like maybe you don't know how to balance that of give and take. Give the power to the people, but not all the power to the people. It's like there's a fight between king and people, king and kingdom. It could be queen too, but you get the analogy I'm trying to say. So that could be something that you struggle with the fights, and it can be very traumatic, or traumatic things can happen within your community that makes you want to isolate yourself from such people. Maybe they were aggressive with you. I try to say in these videos aggressive in a lightly manner, but they could have been the AB word, right, that I'm trying to substitute. And you don't feel comfortable, you don't feel safe, so you kind of, distance yourself from people just to cocoon yourself for your own safety, because that's what makes you feel safe. You being in power of who you hang out with is going to be in your isolation. That's what you feel that you have self-control over. And in theory, that works to some extent, but if you continue to do this for the long run, it could just be damaging to your own self and your own self-esteem and your confidence and the way you interact with people. The lack of trust you end up having in people is going to really hit you, and you not feeling like you're being rewarded because of all the dedication and hard work you've been doing is going to also eat at you. It has a lot to do with the fact that you want to help the world, but the world doesn't want to help you. So you feel not so much hate, but you feel let down by your ideals and your morals and your adventurous entrepreneurial trips, right? Your interesting paths to help the community and to reach out to the community, right? To help those in marginalized groups. And that can be scarring to you. Your humanitarian skills take a toll. Maybe you don't want to help people anymore because they've done a number on you, right? I'm trying not to get too specific in such traumatic events, but that bond was broken, right? The lines were crossed, the boundaries were not respected, and you can feel that. And that Saturnian energy and that authoritative energy, as well as that scary Plutonian energy, where it's like it just kind of takes you into the underworld of all the darkness, all the things that you believed in, just gone. So you can also think of this as a placement where you learn to maybe rely on yourself a little bit more, or maybe you just want to, you rely on yourself for a while, and then you do that thing where you go in extremes and you don't interact with others. You kind of keep to yourself, and then suddenly it's like, I want to go back and I want to be their leader. I want to be the person, the top dog. And you can be a little bit tyrannical. I'm trying to say this word and I always say it wrong. Tyrannical when it comes to your methods, where you want to rule with an iron fist and hold on to your power with the leash. It's like you want to keep everything at bay. You keep your enemies close, your friends close, and your enemies closer. You have this power and authority very similarly to that Capricorn Pluto, where you ultimately create your own structure for your own advantage if it's mishandled. So you have to be careful also with this placement, because people can grow to even dislike you even more. They would love you. Some people might like you for the fact that you It's like you came out with a good comeback, just like the Pluto Saturn. There can also be the people who dislike you because they think you go through extreme methods of acquiring your power, right? So this can be too much or too little for certain people, depending on who you associate with when it comes to this house. And you might also notice that your friends, you can either use your friends, for example, for connections, right, to build up on that trust, right, of power, or your friends can use you because you are in a position of power, and you might not notice it. It's like secretive. All these things can happen in secret or in plain sight, and you don't feel it because it's subtly or unconsciously happening. And until you notice that big switch, it's like that Uranian, like, not Uranian, but Uranus. Yeah, it's Uranian. The Uranian switch of like, it just happened. That change just happened, and I didn't expect it, and my world turned upside down with the Pluto. It's you just don't see these drastic changes happening that you might not realize that you're in too deep in certain unfortunate, unfavorable situations, right? So maybe your friends use you. Let's say you're a board member in an association where you get to have control over finances, and then they befriend you because you have good connections, or because they want to maybe have some money under the table, for certain things like that, and you don't notice that because you're so not thirsty for friends, but you're so interested in having friendships and connections that you blind yourself to these things, right? So it's not always things that you purposely encounter, and you accept. It's not like every placement I can think of doesn't purposely always do these things. Somehow you just acquire this knowledge because these things might have happened to you for such an extended amount of time that you just normalize behavior that was negative or traumatic, and you don't see how much damage it took on you, because it takes many years. It takes many years for Pluto to kind of show you its full-on effect. It's like, oh, this hurts. This really hurts. I'm alone. I'm in pain. What do I do? Those are things that Pluto kind of start hitting at you, and no matter how fast you run or how you do things, you're still going to come across problems like that over and over again until you fix your Plutonian placement. So you can also have issues regards to technology. So for example, traumatic experiences that can be, maybe example, you work as a cam girl or a cam boy. So when you work here, because it is also technology and futuristic endeavors and such, you notice that people start being gross creeps, right? They start creeping on you a little bit too much. So that kind of starts becoming a little too much, that you just want to hide away. And you connect being public online with your friends, or maybe with people, or how you earn your income or things like that, to all those negative experiences that you just want to stay away, and you shy away from the social media sphere, right? For example. And that can be very traumatic for some people, and I'm trying to best say certain things, but it can be like that, where you get grossed out and you develop certain traumas, right? Because you learn to mistrust anyone that's online and what they represent or what they've done to you, they caused to you, because they've desired your body maybe, or they've crossed the boundaries of safety, and they might have obsessively hunted you down to know where your location's at. I'm trying not to say that word, but you know where I'm going at. And meeting them was very traumatic, because that was scary. That was like an encounter you did not expect, in that Uranian theme, but also Plutonic, where they might have instilled their power over you because they just knew how to use technology better than you did, You know, things like that can be scary. So you learn to hide yourself from many of these 11th house subjects because you develop that fear that they can hurt you, right? So you learn to protect yourself by not allowing people to cross the boundaries. So maybe you appear very mysterious online because suddenly it's like you used to post everything and now it's like I'm taking a step back, right? Completely stop, or I eradicate all my social media accounts and I just disappear, or I come back and it's just like that little icon that's gray or colored, like, you know, I don't know, it depends on which account you're on, but you just have the blank icon as your picture, right? Where nobody knows how you look like anymore, or you stay away also from the associations you used to and the connections you used to be with because there's no more trust in them, so you don't know who to trust, so you kind of isolate yourself and you become alone. You only rely on yourself, you only talk to yourself. You learn that people might have mishandled, you know that they're not really there for you, right? They might have mishandled your trust in that aspect. So you can encounter yourself in those situations, and the way you get your power back is by not talking to anybody. So these are some examples. You become disillusioned with the fact that the future and your hopes and dreams and your rewards are very different from what you thought you could have. It's that thing that you want the most, a deep connection, and researching in anything in these is it's usually to your detriment. So you have to learn how to navigate your Pluto by confronting it head on, as scary as it can be, but still not doing things the way you normally think people would do it. That was terribly worded, but having alternative methods, doing things in non-conventional ways is going to allow you to get a hold of your Pluto placement, because this is, you know, Aquarius wants to do things differently, structured but still differently. And regardless of how you see this, both of these are fixed signs, so you might have a trouble kind of sticking to a plan or kind of changing, or maybe taking a long time to actually see the changes happening, both good and bad, because both are very slow moving outer planets. Well, for the most part, Aquarius is still kind of fast changes too, unforeseen changes that are chaotic. So thriving in the chaos is something you're going to have to kind of learn to change, constantly transform, to reinvent yourself and reinvent what these things mean to you, right? So that's what I have for you guys with Pluto in the 11th house. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. I will add more things as I go in regards to writing. Write some more notes when I post this. So I hope you guys enjoyed that, and thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you soon. So bye, everybody.